He never thought that life could be lost in a single second. But that is exactly what happened that morning. The mirror reflected a familiar face. Sleepy, slightly worn, but calm. The morning began as usual. An alarm clock, coffee, getting dressed, a brief glance at the phone. No premonitions, no warning signs, just a day that felt guaranteed. Alexei did not even think about how everything he had postponed for later was losing its meaning. The morning moved slowly, as if it wanted to prepare him for the catastrophe. Every small thing, every sound, the whistle of the alarm, the smell of coffee, the faint noise in the hallway, felt sharper, but he paid no attention. He lived fast, without thinking about consequences, as always. Keys in his hand, the seat against his back. The seat belt clicked into place. He opened the door and felt the familiar cold metal of the car beneath his fingers. The engine started, and the world around him grew quiet, as if it were waiting for disaster. He knew this road. Every turn, every sign, every pothole. Felt like life was under his control. But control is an illusion, and this time it would not save him. The phone on the seat vibrated. A message from a colleague. Short, "Hi, are you okay?" He meant to reply later. He simply tapped the screen to look again. That second was enough to change everything. The wheels slid on the wet asphalt. The car lost traction. The steering wheel tore from his hands. His heart pounded. His thoughts tangled. There was no scream, no time, only a slow silence that stretched into eternity. In that moment he thought about his mother, about how he had not called her in a long time, about friends he had drifted away from, about all the little things he had postponed for later. And suddenly he realized, the life he had postponed would never return. The world turned over, and then it disappeared. When he came to, the white space of the hospital room burned his eyes. Only breathing felt deep in his chest. The doctors spoke calmly. "You survived." But he did not feel lucky. He felt emptiness, the pain of realizing that everything he knew about life had ceased to exist. The nights were the worst. Every sound, a step in the hallway, a phone ringing, even the wind outside the window, pulled him back to that moment. The turn, the rain, the instant glance at the phone, the silence that tore the world apart. To survive does not mean to be alive. To survive means to wake up in a world that is no longer yours. When the doctors allowed him to return home, he felt a strange relief. The car had been taken to the impound lot. He no longer saw it, no longer had to sit inside it. But the fear did not leave. It sat beside him like a shadow that would not let go. He knew he could not avoid the road or the fear forever. The first days at home were filled with loneliness and silence. Every sound, even the faintest, seemed dangerous. Alexei began keeping a journal. At first, the entries were chaotic. Fear, pain, anger at himself. Then they became calmer, more structured. He wrote down small things that had once seemed insignificant. The smell of coffee, the cold air, the sound of rain. Every detail became valuable. He began to observe the people around him. How they walked along the sidewalk without looking down. How drivers talked on the phone, unaware that 1 second could change life forever. And he understood that he had once been the same. But now he was different. Gradually, the need to go outside appeared. At first, he watched from the balcony. Then the walks grew longer. He learned slowness. He learned to breathe. He learned to live with fear nearby, without letting it control his actions. Every small thing, smell, sound, color, now mattered. He began to understand. The catastrophe took away the old person who lived on autopilot, but gave him a chance to begin life anew. To survive is a chance, and he decided to use it. The following weeks became a real trial. Alexei was not only dealing with pain and shock after the crash. He felt his inner world collapsing piece by piece. Everyday things that had once seemed normal now frightened him. Every sound outside the window, from tire noise to the clang of doors, felt threatening. He feared what had once caused no fear at all. Speed, movement, uncertainty. The car, once a symbol of freedom, had become a symbol of danger. He could not even bring himself to look at the road from the window. Fear sat beside him like an invisible passenger, never leaving. Yet at the same time, he knew avoidance was impossible. He had to live with it and find a way to control himself, not the fear. At home, he kept writing in his journal more actively. At first, the entries were chaotic, overflowing with memories of the turn, the rain, the phone. Then they became methodical, what he felt, what he thought, what he wanted to change. Each line was a small victory over himself. Step by step, he began to accept the past instead of trying to erase it. A few weeks later, he tried his first controlled trip, by taxi to the supermarket. Every meter of the road was a test. The steering wheel in the driver's hands, the tire noise, the streetlights, all felt too loud. His hands trembled, his heart raced, but not running away became his main goal. He learned to stop, to wait, to breathe. Every movement was deliberate, and despite the fear, he managed. That small success gave him more than any words could. Fear stopped being an enemy. It became an indicator, a reminder of the value of life and presence in every second. He began to notice people around him who did not think about consequences. Pedestrians at crossings, drivers on their phones, random traffic signals. He had once been the same. Now he was different. At home, sitting in silence, he repeated to himself, "Now I have a choice. A choice not to run, not to hide, not to forget. A choice to live attentively." Slowly but truly, he realized that the catastrophe took away his old life, but gave him a chance to create a new, conscious one. Days became manageable not through schedules, but through presence. He listened to himself more, observed his body and thoughts. He learned to notice the smallest details. The sound of rain, the smell of coffee, the light breath of the wind. Every small thing gave him a sense of life. A few months later, Alexei took another step. He decided to approach the place of the accident, not to relive the trauma, but to accept it. He stood at the same turn, looked at the asphalt wet with rain, saw tire marks, puddles left after that second. His heart pounded, his hands trembled, but now it was a calm, controlled fear. He stepped forward and said to himself, "This is my path now, and I can walk it." He sat in the car without starting the engine. Just sat. Felt the cold metal of the steering wheel, the smell of the interior. Fear was there, but it no longer controlled him. Alexei knew. He had not defeated fear, but he had learned to live with it. It was a small but real triumph. The months that followed changed Alexei beyond recognition. His body healed, but more importantly, his mind did. The fear that once paralyzed him on a single turn now sat beside him as a companion, reminding him that life is fragile and every moment matters. One morning, he decided to do what once seemed impossible. Sit behind the wheel of his own car. It stood in the parking lot, clean, slightly cold from the night air. His heart pounded, his hands trembled, but he took a deep breath and clicked the seat belt. Slowly inserted the key into the ignition. The engine started quietly. The dashboard lights flickered, and in that moment he felt that fear had stopped being only an enemy. The first drive was short, a few kilometers through the city. Slowly, attentively, without haste. He watched the road, felt the rhythm of life around him, listened to the tire noise on asphalt, the traffic lights, the distant footsteps of pedestrians. Every sound felt intense, every movement dangerous, but now he was not running. Now he was present. With each day, the distance grew. Alexei felt confidence, but not carelessness. He learned to balance. Fear helps you survive. Control allows you to live. His journal filled with new notes. Today I passed the turn without fear. Stopped to let a pedestrian pass. And it wasn't scary. Learned to accept trembling hands without panic. His relationships with people changed as well. He listened more, spoke less. Noticed details he had once missed. Tone of voice, a glance, a gesture. His friends noticed the change. He stopped rushing into adventures without preparation. Stopped making impulsive decisions that could end in disaster. Now he chose attentiveness. One evening, he decided to drive along the same road where the accident had happened. Rain fell softly, puddles shimmered in the streetlights, The asphalt reflected every beam. His heart pounded, his hands were sweaty, but his gaze was clear. He passed the turn without fear. He realized the catastrophe did not take his life. It only destroyed the old version of himself and gave him a chance to become attentive, present, real. That drive became a turning point. He understood that life after the accident would not be the same, but now it was real. Slow, filled with meaning, attentiveness to details and people. He felt not relief, but inner calm, something that had once seemed unreachable. For the first time in many months, he felt that fear did not destroy him. It became part of life, like a signal reminding him of the value of every moment. And that gave him strength. Alexei no longer wanted to run. He wanted to live, consciously. Months turned into years, but for Alexei everything began with one moment. A moment that overturned his world and forced him to think about every breath. He learned to accept fear, not let it rule his life, and turned it into a compass leading to attention, presence, and awareness. His first drives were slow and careful, but over time he began to feel the rhythm of the road. Every traffic light signal, every tire sound, every pedestrian step became part of a larger picture. He realized that life is not a race, and it does not matter how many kilometers you drive or how fast you reach your goal. What matters is living here and now, listening to yourself and the world around you. His journal became a record of transformation. He wrote not only fears and переживания, but also small victories. Today, I didn't feel panic during the turn. For the first time in a month, I drove through the city alone. I stopped and talked to my mother instead of postponing it. Each line was another step toward a life he had once not understood. His relationships with people changed as well. He began to notice small things. Anxiety in a voice, a gesture revealing emotion, a look that said more than words. Once he had been indifferent, rushed, unaware. Now every interaction mattered. He listened more and spoke less, choosing moments when words truly mattered. One evening, when the city was wrapped in night, he decided to make one last drive along that same road. Rain fell softly, puddles reflected streetlights, the asphalt gleamed. He approached the turn again. His heart pounded, his hands were sweaty, but there was no panic. He looked ahead and realized the catastrophe did not take his life. It took the old version of himself, the one who lived automatically and did not notice life. He passed the turn slowly and consciously. Every movement, every breath, every eye that saw the world, everything was his. He felt presence in every second, in every moment. And that feeling was stronger than any fear, any loss. Alexei understood that life cannot be fully controlled. It is fragile, unpredictable, and that is its beauty. To survive is not a gift. To survive is a chance that gives you the ability to notice, feel, love, and value. And he decided to use that chance. From then on, he lived with attentiveness, observed the world and people, felt the presence of every moment. He learned to see beauty in small things. Raindrops on asphalt, reflections of light on glass, the sound of footsteps at night. And most of all, he learned to feel alive, not just existing. Fear remained nearby, but now it was a friend reminding him of the value of life. Every day, every drive, every meeting became a lesson. He knew the catastrophe took away the old person, but gave him a chance to become someone else. Attentive, real, present. And that was the greatest wealth. Alexei took a deep breath, holding the steering wheel, and smiled. He knew. From now on, he was not afraid to live. He had survived the worst and learned to value every moment.